Evening.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for being patient. We're ready to get underway. I believe you've all received the agenda for tonight's meeting. So let's just get started with the call to order and the roll call.
You ready, Chair?
I'm ready.
All right, 4B01.
Present.
4B02 is present. 4B03. Not present. 4B04. Brenda is not here. I am texting with her and I will make a note if she joins. 4B05 is not present. 4B06.
Present.
4B07.
Present.
4B08.
8 present.
4B09.
Present.
Great, we have a
Wonderful. Okay, the next item would be, well, by now we've all participated in virtual meetings in the past. We all understand to mute ourselves and to use the raise our hands function or *9 if we have a question, and or to include your question in the chat, and we will read the questions from the chat ourselves and look forward to a very productive meeting. Before we move on to the agenda for tonight, there is a small change in consideration of this agenda. While we will have a budget presentation, it is not going to be a DDOT presentation. It is instead a DPW presentation with Director Carter. So with that small change to the agenda, I put forward an agenda and look for a second. I see LaRoya's hands raised. All in favor of that minor modification?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And there's no opposition. I saw all hands or heard Tiffany in that case. So then we can move on to the next item, which would be the approval of the February regular public meeting minutes, excuse me. The meeting minutes were distributed. Does anyone have a question with regard to them? Hearing none, is there I'll put forward the motion to approve the minutes as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's everyone. Thank you. And lastly, we'll move on under administrative items. We'll move on to the treasurer's report. Commissioner Bramagen, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you. The only update for today's meeting is to let you know the current balance in our checking account is $52,680.35. So basically the same, almost exactly the same as last month.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you. Is there a motion? Do we have to approve the report? There's no written report. That's right. That's not the quarterly report.
We'll
I'm
have
sorry.
a quarterly report in April.
Right.
Next month.
So we can move on to the next item, which would be individual commissioner updates. I will start, if you guys will indulge me for 1 second. We need to make everyone on the call aware that the commissioner for 4B05, Graham Button, has resigned his position. And so we now have a vacancy again in 4B05. And we will proceed as we have in the past with covering 4B05. So if anyone has any questions or concern, they can address those to all of us, and we'll do our best to cover in the short term. With that, Commissioner Palmer.
Yes, I just want to note that Commissioner Parks is trying to join, I think, by phone. So we
Okay.
should keep an eye out for her phone number and make a note for the minutes when she's able to.
Okay. Will do. We'll move on to 4B01. If there are any updates, we're just going to go in numerical order.
I do have an update. This is just there'll be more to come about it later, but we have tentatively scheduled a community meeting about the proposed development at the Tacoma Metro Station parking lot for Friday, February 8th from noon to 2 p.m. If you want to hold that time in your calendar, that's co-hosted by myself, Commissioner Palmer, and Commissioner Bromagen, for those who'd like to learn more about that project.
April, right?
Yes, April 8th, sorry.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Yates. Commissioner Palmer, did you have an update?
I guess I would just share that tomorrow there's I believe a ribbon cutting for 410 Cedar, which is a housing preservation trust fund project, and the commission has weighed in and supported that in the past. So it's a nice closing to the project and celebratory addition of our neighborhood.
Great. 3, 4, 5, 6 would be Commissioner Tiffany Johnson.
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to let you know that I will be having a single member district meeting on April 4th at 7 p.m. Also wanted to let you know I have a free pantry in my front yard. So if you are so inclined, or if you have residents that are so inclined, they can come and donate non-perishable items. If they want to donate perishable items, please let me know in advance so that I can put those in my refrigerator so they don't get eaten. And that is it for the moment.
Thank you. Commissioner Bromagen, did you have an update?
None from me today. Thanks.
Okay, we will move on then to community concerns. If residents have questions or comment, you can use the raise your hand function or *9 if you're on the telephone.
I did want to mention.
I'm so sorry. Did I forget to call on you?
That's okay.
I'm so sorry.
So, because you're a part of this too. So on the 23rd of April, Earth Day, Commissioner Brooks, myself, and probably Bromagen as well, are coordinating a cleanup. So if anybody wants to join in, please do. You can reach out to either one of us. We'll be meeting at Riggs LaSalle Rec at 10 a.m. and we'll clean up from Lamont down to 4B through 4B09. So thank you so much.
Thank you, and I apologize again.
That's cool.
Okay, we'll move on to the community concerns. We'll start with Julie Lawson.
Hi, good evening, everybody. So on behalf of Whittier Elementary School, Friday is when all of the My School DC lottery results come out, and Friday at 10 o'clock, I think it's 10 o'clock, Whittier is having an in-person open house. So we really hope that folks will come out. If you got matched, confirming, yes, 10 to 11 o'clock at the school, come in and see the building, and especially come in and see our awesome new early childhood mural that I know Commissioner Yates helped paint. And related to murals, April 30th, we're going to be painting on the wall by the early childhood playground. We have Elia Wilson, who's done several of the murals in NOMA, has designed it, and we look forward to community support in helping to paint that. In order to fund it, the school is holding a popcorn fundraiser next week. So please, now that you've bought all your Girl Scout cookies, please think about buying some popcorn to help us out. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Angie, is the timer working?
Yes, it is.
Okay, can we give folks 1 minute, please, for community concerns?
I will certainly do that.
Thank you. Sarah Levine, you're next.
Hi, I'm so sorry. My puppy just started squeaking a really loud toy, so I'll try to make this really quick. So I walk my dogs a lot, and there's such an issue with people not stopping in the crosswalk for pedestrians. I'm like halfway in the crosswalk and people are just zipping by. Yesterday, I thought a child looked like elementary school. Someone didn't stop him, for him in the crosswalk, and I'm like, whoa. And I don't know if we need police sitting nearby and giving tickets, but people just do not seem to care at all. So that's all I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you mention what particular intersection that was?
Well, a lot of it's on Kansas and Longfellow. That's a big one. North Capitol. Here's my puppy. North Capitol. So let's see. I think Monroe. Next to Madison, next to Fort Slocum. All of those, but Kansas. I swear, almost no one stops on Kansas.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
I asked that because we have MPD on the call as well as the councilwoman's office and the mayor's office, so they can make note of those intersections. So thank you very much. Adele Dantzler.
Yes, so I have had issues with actually, getting the, I guess it's the Office of the Environment, the River Smart program. I actually signed up for it in March of 2020. And I have been writing numerous emails to the person who was supposed to be, providing either the rain barrel or the garden or the permeable stones. And she'd written everything up in March. I tried to contact, I ended up even going to, was it Tommy Wells, who's the director there? And he put 2 or 3 people on it. And I've told them what I wanted, and they still have not responded to me. And it's extremely frustrating when I see all these people who have gotten all these services, like in the last 2 years, and I have, and they've just moved in. So anything that can help, to be able to get the rain barrel, to get the permeable stones or the rain garden would be helpful.
If I remember correctly from other calls, you're in 4B02, is that correct?
That's correct.
Have you spoken with Commissioner Palmer directly yet?
No.
Commissioner Palmer, do you want to take this on, or do you want to refer
Yep,
this to?
I'm happy to follow up on this. I have a contact in the River Smart program.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dantzler. I don't see any other hands. Commissioner Yates, are there any questions in the chat?
No, ma'am.
Okay, well then we can move. I'm sorry, Laura Stingley just raised her hand. Laura?
Hi, can you
Hi.
hear me?
Yes.
Sorry, all of a sudden my mute button was missing. Hi, so I'm relatively new to this area, so I apologize if this is an issue that was previously presented, and I'm more than happy, Ms. Brooks, to talk to you offline. But
Okay.
on Oglethorpe Street Northeast going towards New Hampshire Avenue, it is very challenging. The traffic has definitely become worse, especially with employment offices and other areas opening up. So we have an issue. So I just don't know who I should reach out to in terms of, definitely at Oglethorpe and New Hampshire, there should be some type of traffic sign or light or something so that the traffic does not go all the way backed up onto Oglethorpe, because there's no Oglethorpe has a stop sign, but there's no traffic lights or signs on New Hampshire. So it is becoming very dangerous now.
Happy to talk to you about this, after the meeting tomorrow sometime, and
Okay,
try to give you better direction on how to move forward, okay?
I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Ms. Mateen?
Thank you, Commissioner Brooks. Good evening. This may be a question for Council Member Louis George's office, but I did want to ask, because all of the ANC commissioners are concerned. I hadn't heard any updates in terms of ANC redistricting for 4B. And I just wanted to know if we are still on schedule for a June vote, and that the community concerns are still being received by the council member's office? Or has there been an update in terms of the three maps that we are to be considering? Over.
I can. There you go. I was gonna say, I think she turned her camera off. Go ahead. You want to respond to that?
No, absolutely.
Benitez?
And thank you so much for the question. We have been having meetings, public meetings, since January 23rd. The final and last meeting is on March 29th, and it's via Zoom. It's accessible. If you need ASL or Spanish interpretation, it's available as well. The final vote will take place on that date on the proposed map, and a report that will be submitted to the council's subcommittee on redistricting is what's going to be taking place on the 29th. So I highly encourage you to participate. I believe in the link that Jim just dropped on the chat, you're able to see not only the presentations, but also the recordings of every single meeting that took place. So let us know if you have any issues accessing that information. We're happy to connect you to Joanna Blotner. She's the Director of Legislation at the Office of Councilmember Lewis Church. If you have any questions or any concerns about what has taken place or any concerns that you may have. So let me know if you have them. If you have any questions or concerns, Jim and I will be dropping our contact information on the chat, but I think the fastest way to get information on redistricting is on the page. There is an email address for redistricting@dccouncil.us, or by calling the 202-642-5714 phone number will be the best way. But we're happy to connect you to whoever in the office, to Joanna Blotner in the office that can answer your questions and concerns.
Well, thank you. So just a quick follow-up. So I understood that the votes, the definitive votes are going to be in June, but you're saying that the vote is going to be tomorrow?
The votes that are proposed, so like what the committee, because there is like an individual committee that it's pretty much representing, this is not from, like, it is guided by the council, but it's all of your neighbors coming together to talk about like what is it that we're going to propose to the council. That's what's going to be voted on, finalized, and sent over to the DC council. So whatever is the process for the council, forgive me that I don't have my dates set straight in my head, but right now what's happening is the internal process with your community members guided by our office. What's going to happen after that, yes, will be the votes by the council committee that will take place.
Okay, thank you.
I think that the vote she's asking about in June is the city council's vote is in
Exactly.
June.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
Okay.
I don't have that date for you. I don't know if there is a specific dates, but I'll get it to you before the meeting ends.
Okay, great. So for those that aren't aware, every 10 years, the city redistricts wards, and then after that, ANC commissions, and it's tied to the census. And so that's what's going on now. We had a presentation last month where 3 maps were bandied about. And then more recently, a 4th map, a more finalized version has been presented and will be discussed and voted on tomorrow at the meeting that Tamita was describing. So if you have a question or a care or a concern, then you should participate in that meeting. Those maps can be found on the link that was provided in the chat. And I guess that's update enough. All right, I don't see any more hands raised. I don't hear any more voices. So I'm thinking that we can move on to the next area of the agenda, which are the reports from government representatives. We'll begin with Anthony Mitchell from the Mayor's Office of Community Relations and Services.
Hey, thank you so much, Commissioner Brooks. I'm sorry, Chair Brooks, and for giving us a window to speak. I'm going to be very brief. I know you already have a robust meeting underway, so I'm going to do my best to get out of the way and answer any questions that folks have any. Firstly, thank you to the South Manor Neighborhood Association for inviting us to the cleanup last week. Unfortunately, didn't get to make that because there was a concurrent cleanup happening with the Parks Main Street that we were able to do in conjunction with a whole bunch of other things that they were doing. I did want to let folks know that bridge funding is still available for any entities that you may know that may be in need of that. It was extended to the end of February and then extended to the end of this month. But we anticipate that on March 31st, which is this coming Thursday, that it will be closed after that. So, final call, I guess, last call for applications and folks that you think may be good for those. I do want to remind folks that Hattie Homes is still being used for seniors to get rapid antigen tests every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Also, we have, for those of you who may not know, the new Ward 4 COVID Center is still at People's Congregational Church over at the 4700 block of 13th Street Northwest. You can get KN95 mask, you can get rapid antigen tests, PCR tests, vaccine, and of course boosters are available. And lastly, I want to mention that it is still budget season. As you all know, we will have Director Carter presenting on the budget on behalf of the mayor's budget, and we'll be around to answer any questions later. But please, if you have any questions, that is the time to ask, as well as you can always go to budget.dc.gov to submit any questions, suggestions that you might have. Our team reviews that daily in order that we are being as responsive as possible. As you already know, Mayor Bowser submitted her budget to council and it is currently going to go through a number of hearings. So we encourage folks as much as possible to be engaged in that process. And if you have any questions, so please let us know. With that, I'm going to shut up and take any questions if folks have any.
Thank you. Again, if you have any questions, please use the raise your hand feature or *9. Don't see any questions at this time. Am I missing something?
Nothing in the chat, Chair Brooks.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, then we will move on to the next speaker, which would be Tamara Benitez from Councilmember Louis George's office.
Actually, could I ask to have my colleague James Lewis unmute himself? He will be sharing the points he will be sharing the updates with you. Apologies.
Absolutely.
Good evening.
There you go.
Yeah, sorry, I'm waiting for I'm not sure. Yeah, there we go. Good evening, Chair Brooks and all the commissioners. I'm excited to be here tonight. This is my ANC. I live in Riggs Park, so I'm super excited to present what we're doing in Ward 4 to everyone. The first update I have, first, I'm Jim Lewis. I'm happy to be here. I'm excited to be in Ward 4 in this neighborhood. So, and I believe Commissioner Huff is my commissioner. So hello, how are you? So the first thing I'm going to talk about is budget oversight hearings are happening right now. Councilmember Louis George is showing up at hearings to fight for a DC budget that meets the needs of our community here in Ward 4. And we want everyone to consider speaking at upcoming budget hearings on issues that matter most to them. We have a full schedule of hearings and instructions on how to participate in those hearings at a link I will share right now. And yeah, and if you have any questions about speaking at these hearings, please let us know, reach out. And then the next thing, we have a new legislation that the council member is introducing called the Clean Collections Act, which is pretty cool. The bill addresses trash and recycling issues in apartment buildings that are not serviced by DPW, the Department of Public Works, and instead have private collections. DC currently has no specific standard for how many trash and recycling bins that must be provided at apartments and condo buildings, or how often trash is collected at these properties. The Clean Collections Act would address this issue by setting up a reasonable standard for how many cans should be at each apartment condo building and requiring collectors to pick up trash at least twice a week. And I will share a link to that legislation. We're really excited about it. And if anyone has any questions about that, please let me know. And then we already talked about Ward 4 redistricting. We got some more information right a few seconds ago that I'm going to share about votes. The final vote for redistricting will be in late May, early June. The hearings are scheduled April 7th, and the final votes for council will be in June. Just confirming that. And I will reshare the link we had to Janice, to the council members redistricting page. I believe it only is going to be targeted at condos and apartments, to the person in the chat. Just want to answer that. And then one big thing that we're doing right now that I'm super excited about is Ward 4 Care Days. We're going to each neighborhood in Ward 4. We're showing up with agencies from the city. We're talking to neighbors, knocking on doors. We already had one in Crestwood and we had one in Brightwood, which went really well, even though it rained in Brightwood. And we're excited to meet our neighbors here in Riggs and Lamed, and that will be on, I believe, June, I have the date right here, June 23rd and September 1st, June 23rd in Lamed and September 1st in Riggs Park. And that's both from 4 to 7 p.m. on Thursdays. And I'll share information about that right here. And we're super excited about that. And we want to thank everyone who came out to our Listen as We Climb community listening sessions over the past few months. And we're excited to use what we learned from that going forward in the ward. And the final thing is the newsletter. We have a newsletter that goes out all the time, and we have a link for it, and I will share that in the chat. And if anyone has any questions, concerns, whatever, I'll be happy to answer. So Lamb and Riggs, it's split between the two different parts of the neighborhood. And on the website, you can see where we're meeting when that is posted. It'll be that more information will be posted closer to the days.
So the only thing I would add to that is that the dates that you dropped in for the care days don't include all of the areas covered by the commission. So you need to check the website for the other dates.
Yeah.
Lamont Riggs has a date. South Manor Park has a date.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a date for every neighborhood. When did you all do Brightwood? So Brightwood was Tamara was
March 17th, because I just had to pull it up. I'm sorry.
It rained.
It already took place. My colleague Aura reached out to commissioners to make sure that you were looped and informed.
Yep. So I will post that link again just so you have it.
Hi, Commissioner Huff. Yeah, I have a question. So there's always the thing with Lamont Riggs, right? Because there's the Lamont community, and then there's Riggs. So I guess when you do it, you specify Lamont and then Riggs, right?
Yeah.
Because they're two separate neighborhoods, but they're all clustered in the Lamont Riggs Civic Association boundary, but they're really two separate neighborhoods.
Yeah. Yeah.
We do have two separate dates.
Yeah, and we're trying to make it more targeted. They are.
Yes.
Okay, I just saw in the chat, it said Lamont Riggs, so they're.
No, it says Lamont is June 23rd, and it says Riggs Park is September 1st. But then Ms. Richardson was asking about Lamont Riggs.
Yeah.
Right, that's why I got confused.
Yeah.
Because it can be confusing.
It is, yes, definitely.
Definitely two neighborhoods.
And we have more information about the different neighborhoods on the website. I'm sorry I didn't list out every neighborhood in the ANC, but that was my fault on my end.
No worries.
But I'm happy to answer any questions.
I believe I saw Commissioner Palmer's hand as well.
Sure.
Thank you, Commissioner Brooks. Just a quick point of feedback from my single member district on the Clean Collections Act, which is that we have a couple of buildings that butt an alley that have a trash issue, and it's not so much the size, but the quality of the receptacles. So there's some interest in having it, that alleyway include dumpsters and not cans, not so much for size, but because there's a big rat issue, and they just kind of demolish the plastic trash cans. So that's my feedback on that. And also I was wondering, it's great if people can go and testify at budget oversight hearings, but that doesn't work for a lot of people. If you can talk a little bit about other ways that people can give feedback on the budget in terms of what the DC Council is doing.
Yeah, Tamara, if you have anything to add to that, I'll be happy to. First thing, Commissioner Palmer, I'll be happy to work on any issue with alleys. I'm getting very good at figuring out how to get DPW to show for rat abatement and other issues. So I'll be happy to work with you with that. For the budget, Tamara, do you have anything to add for that I can
Yeah,
give
absolutely.
some good ideas?
So the ideal is for people to show up to the hearing and give their 3-minute testimony that will inspire district agencies and the district agencies that are there and the council to say, you know what you're saying makes sense. Let's make sure that, district agencies are properly working and properly funded. That is the goal, for you to be there, share your 3 minutes of information, of testimony, saying this is why this is important to me. If you're unable to be there in person for whatever reason, technology issues is one of the ways. You are working 2-3 jobs and can't, take that time off to guess when is it that you're gonna go. That's another legit reason. You can also submit written testimony. It depends which hearing, like which email address for which committee you send it, depending, which agency you're testifying for. So we're happy to help you navigate that process. You can either send us an email or you can give us a call, and we'll give you that information so that you're not spending an hour trying to find that information. The other way that you can testify is that different committees have different phone numbers where you can just leave a voicemail. Still, 3 minutes is what you can leave and give your testimony verbally. The written testimony doesn't have any limits. You can write as much as you want, attach as much as you need in there. So we still highly recommend you to do written testimony. We are more than happy to connect you to our legislative team to help you draft your testimony, see how to deliver that information the best way possible, and also help you navigate how to participate in these very important hearings, because we need you out there. We need your voice in these hearings because council members have limits on how much they can talk, and you have limits too. But if we all talk together about how we need better oversight and more budget in district agencies, that we need them to function well and properly so that we are okay, that's what we gotta do, right? So I hope that answered your question.
I have one last question. We have overrun our time, but there seems to be some confusion around the care days as to whether or not this is an in-person door knocking event or it's a Zoom event. And so could you just clear that up really quickly?
Yeah,
this is
so we're
not
gonna
a Zoom activity. So internet is not an issue, correct?
Not an issue. It is in person at a central location in each of the neighborhoods. We start there, and then we have tables where agencies will be at and members of our team will be at, and also we'll be going into the neighborhoods knocking doors. So it'll be a kind of combination.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Yates, did I miss any other questions? I don't think so.
No, ma'am.
All righty, let's move on to State Board of Education Representative Fraser O'Leary.
Good evening.
Good evening.
At the beginning of March, I, along with over 150 witnesses, testified before the Committee of the Whole's oversight hearing on our schools. My testimony centered on the lack of response for the physical problems in our neighborhood schools and the need for a swing space in Northeast Ward 4. Whittier, Truesdale, Powell, LaSalle, Bacchus, and Roosevelt still have HVAC issues. Roosevelt has had to use portable space heaters since last month. We as a community need to lobby DCPS and the mayor on the creation of a swing space in Northeast Ward 4 that can accommodate Truesdale, Whittier, and LaSalle Bacchus when they are finally able to be remodeled, instead of sending the students and staff to Garnet Patterson Middle School at 10th and U Streets Northwest, miles away from their homes. Many DCPS schools are short of teachers and are in urgent need of substitutes. The requirements have been changed so that you can become a sub with an associate's degree. Qualified applicants can make up to $300 a day. 2 weeks ago, I testified on bills sponsored by Mary Che and Janice Lewis George about safe streets. This morning, I, along with 240 other residents, testified about the mayor's education budget and the need for our school buildings in Ward 4 to made safe and comfortable for all. I'd like to mention also about Mrs. O'Leary's Books for Friends. It's not too late to donate books. You can get in touch with me. I left my information in the chat. We've distributed over 30,000 books in the last 2 years, and we're still collecting. So please talk to your friends and neighbors so that they can put the books in the hands of our elementary and middle school students. I'd also like to, I won't say beg, but encourage you to please get in touch with me on anything that's school related. If I don't know about the problems, I can't help solve them. And that's what I want to do as your representative. Thank you very much.
Very welcome. Don't see any questions at this time.
Chair Brooks, if I
Yates?
may.
Mhm.
I wanted to thank Board Member O'Leary for his focus on facilities. I think it's really important, and I appreciate his advocacy on it. I noted that the state board had done resolutions on the essential nature of librarians and on funding for outdoor learning. And I was wondering if the state board would consider a resolution in support of fixing these facilities concerns that we've heard from you about.
We've been, we were lucky enough, I guess, since there were 240 people testifying today, that the members of the board who testified were first this morning. And all of the members of the board that testified, there were 5 of the 9 members on the board testified this morning, and all of them testified about basically the same thing. And that is that the facilities have been not taken care of. And there was wards all over the city, from Ward 3, Ward 1, Ward 7, Ward 8, and Ward 4. But that's a great idea. I bring it up at every meeting I go to. I bring it up at testified, as I said, 3 times this month, and it was all about facilities, and it was about those schools. And we're fortunate enough that all of the schools in Ward 4 have been remodeled, except for Whittier, LaSalle, Bacchus, and Truesdale. Dorothy Height will be remodeled. It's in the remodeling process now. But those schools, LaSalle, Bacchus, Whittier, and Truesdale, are in need of work on their buildings. And as far as I'm concerned, they've been neglected by the executive and the people who work in leadership.
I couldn't agree more. I just think that this commission has weighed in formally, and I would urge the board to do the same.
Okay, thank you. And also the thing about swing space, which I know is a pet product of several people, that's very important. And this idea of going to Garnet-Patterson, which is where I started teaching, it's the first 7 years, is ridiculous. And it's been brought up as being ridiculous in the board hearings. So we have to get in the council hearings, we have to get the council behind it. And the more people that testify and raise their voices, the better.
All right, thank you very much.
Sure.
Next on the agenda is MPD, and I believe I saw Captain Porter on the call. He didn't have to go. Oh, I see him.
Yes, ma'am. I'm here. Captain Frank Porter with the 4th District, one of the captains there that cover this ANC. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over the stats, basically how much crime we had in the last 30 days in the ANC. Unfortunately, crime seemed like it has went up a little bit since last year. The last 30 days, I'm gonna highlight on a few things that I'm having concerns with. Violent crime, we had 9 violent crime incidents. Last year at this time, we had 4. So that adds up by 5 more different violent crimes. It's mostly put around robberies. We did have 2 assault with a dangerous weapons that occurred in the last 30 days. Neither one of them resulted in any injuries. The first one did happen on March 12th. happened at the corner of Crockerbos and Eastern Avenue on the northeast side. That one, someone did get shot at. He did not get struck with the bullets, so therefore there was no injuries, but that case is still under investigation with the detective's office. The second assault with a dangerous weapon happened on the 6900 block of Willow Street Northwest. That's a domestic case that happened on March 11th. Again, that one didn't result in any injuries, but that case is still open, and I'm sure that one's going to be solved. Most of the domestic cases are closed with a warrant being issued. So that's the assault with the dangerous weapons. Now, the concern with the violent crimes are the robberies. We did have 7 robberies. Most of the robberies occurred on the evening tour, which is basically has changed with the last 30 days with the robberies. We've been having issues with robberies occurring in the morning. It seemed like we got a hold on that. Now it seems like the robberies are starting to happen closer to the evening tour. They are spread out throughout the entire ANC, but like I said, it's 7 of them. I'm not going to go to each one of them. All of them is involving handguns. And just compare with the ones that happened last year, we had 2 last year at this time. Now we got 7. But like I said, the robberies are up through the entire ANC and almost the entire district and almost the entire city. Going to the property crimes are up a little bit. Burglaries are down. We had 0 burglaries in the ANC last 30 days. Theft models are up. We had 34. With compared to last year, we had 24. I did send out an email with a lot of individuals that I do keep up with stuff that's going on with. We had basically a lot of thefts of tires. So basically it's a lot of tires getting stolen through the entire city. Just to compare to what we had last year, and this is the entire city. Last year at this time, we had 33 vehicles getting stolen where tires were stolen. This year at this time, we had 133. So that's just can tell you how much of an increase we have had since last year when it comes to tires being stolen. I sent out some basically some tips on how to prevent this type of crime. A lot of times you can put certain locks on your tires. You can put alarms on your tires. You can park your vehicle in certain locations in certain ways that can prevent this type of crime. But our units are definitely out there looking for it. We have an auto theft unit that's basically has picked up the pace when it comes to stuff like this. So just be mindful. People are going around stealing tires. Thefts, we had 19 thefts. That's down by 25 last year. And stolen vehicles are still up. We had 5 stolen vehicles in the ANC. That's up. Last year we had 1. Stolen vehicles are still being stolen with people leaving vehicles running. Easiest way to get your vehicle stolen is just leave it running. Even if you put an air in your tire, that right there, I hear a lot of that go out when it comes to vehicles getting stolen. People putting the air in their tires and they leave their vehicle running, which, you know, most of us probably would do that. Don't think someone's going to, steal your car while you're just putting the air in your tire, but that does happen. So be mindful of that. Make sure you pass that on to your neighbors and friends. If you're doing the most smallest thing is putting air in your tires, shut your vehicle off because someone is watching, especially gas stations. And that's going to be it for MPD. Open up for questions.
Thank you. I'll start with the questions if you don't mind, and then I'll go to the other commissioners. Crime in 4B08 is, not the highest in the city, but the types of crimes that we're having now are very concerning. Like we have a lot of seniors in this community, and I think their sense of security is starting to be stripped from them. And I'm interested to know what more we can do to address that. We have people whose car was stolen while they were standing near it.
Right.
We have, and all the Honda tires you're looking for, they're getting dumped behind my house. And I think some of the reason that residents are concerned is because they're pointing these things out before they're happening, but the government isn't reacting in a way that prevents future crime or future activity. And so I'm looking to figure out solutions so that people can feel safe in their community, where they can feel like they can walk up and down the street, where they feel like they can walk from their front door to their car without being robbed, or sit on their front porch even, because one of my residents was robbed on her own porch.
Right. No, I completely understand. One of the things that I always preach, especially during my community meetings, is basically we're going to have to start looking out for each other. Okay, the police department's manpower is starting to go down. We are becoming a smaller department. That means you're not going to see as many police officers. Back in the 80s, the department is up to 5,000. Well, we're down well under 4,000 now. We're down in the threes. So our manpower is going down. So we got to start policing different ways, obviously. So what we need to do is probably with the community wise, we need to start picking up a little bit more when it comes to neighborhood watch communities, watching out for each other, maybe doing walks with the community, basically just watching out for each other and make sure we're basically looking out for our property by way of, you know, don't leave your vehicle running when you're at a gas station, or basically putting certain locks on your tires so they don't get stolen. Unfortunately, the police cannot be everywhere, and we know that. We know we can't be everywhere. We can't see everything. So, but one thing I do have everywhere, I have citizens everywhere. I have citizens on every block. I got citizens that's going to look out for what I need to be looking out for on every single block and on every single corner. So therefore, neighborhood watch, I think we need to start doing a little bit more neighborhood watch and picking up a little bit more of that.
I appreciate that. And I plan to bring this up when Director Carter's speaking as well, but I think there also needs to be some sort of change in how trap cars are being addressed in the community, because we all know there are cars in this community that kids are using as stash cars, that people are using to commit crime, but they don't meet the requirements to be towed, or they're just not being towed. And
Right.
so,
Yep.
you know, those kinds of things could help to reduce nuisance crime. Thank you.
That's
Are there any
correct.
other commissioners with questions? I saw Commissioner Huff put a question in the chat which asked about the stabbing on Riggs Road and 3rd Street Northeast. Captain Porter,
Oh, what was the question? I didn't hear it.
there was a stabbing on Riggs Road and 3rd Street Northeast that Commissioner Huff would like more information about.
Yeah, I'll have to reach out to, I have to look more into it and see and talk to the detectives and basically see where they're at on that particular case. I'll reach out to Ms. Huff personally.
Okay, Commissioner Huff, you're on mute.
So I'd like to also know from the MPD about the incident that occurred where the rec center was kind of blocked off. It was rumored that there was a firearm recovered and someone got robbed. So if you could speak to that as well. I want to say it was the end of last week.
I'm not sure if if you talk about one of the robberies that occurred, I'm not sure what the rec center had to do with it. I might have to like look into it a little bit more. I know
Okay.
that's basically another sector, but what I'll do is I'll look into both incidents and I'll get back to you tomorrow once I get to work.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Not a problem.
Commissioners, do you have any other questions? Seeing none?
I have a question.
Okay.
This is Tiffany Nicole Johnson, ANC 4B06. I'm looking at the most recent data that you provided. Let's see, at the Sector 1 monthly community meeting.
Yes.
And you make reference to KDY, the Kennedy Street crew.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate a little bit, just because I know this is going to be recorded and people don't understand the difference between a crew and a gang. But also, what are you doing to combat this kind of crew culture that I've personally witnessed on a daily basis?
Right. Well, the way DC is set up, it seemed like most of area neighborhoods, they make themselves little small crews area. I mean, the difference between a crew and a gang is more organized throughout the entire nation. So you may have a gang like the Bloods of the Crips, you know, on the East Coast, and they also on the West Coast. But in DC, it seemed like a lot of the young kids set themselves up into like neighborhood crews, you know, people they grew up with, obviously. But they commit crimes within that little crew area that they have. So what we're trying to do now is trying to police a little bit different. It's the days of basically just trying to get out on a block and I think they called it back in the day, jump out on people. We don't do that no more. What we do is basically try to do a little bit more intelligence policing, where we may look into trying to build a case, a long-term case on certain things. So I'm pretty sure it's KDY, which is a crew that's on Kennedy Street. I know that's ANC 4D, however, but they do spread into the 100 block of Kennedy Street, which I think is ANC 4B. So, however, what we're doing is we basically trying to build cases as much as we can and then present that to the U.S. Attorney's Office, and hopefully we can make some dent into that crew is what we try to do as best we can.
So you're not using any other model but just arresting them?
Well, obviously we have violent interrupters. Violent interrupters do a lot. Unfortunately, they don't work with the police. The violent interrupters, they're a separate entity. A lot of the crew members do not like the police. So obviously when you look at the violent interrupters, they basically work in on their own and basically do other things that basically try to interrupt any violence that's going on. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot of agencies, there's a lot of government agencies that do a lot of stuff. But what the police do, we obviously make sure we get presence in that area. Obviously, we do a lot of different things, but when it comes to policing, to basically deal with the situation we got, we want to do some intelligence policing. This is what we're working on.
Okay, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to cut this conversation a little bit short. We've overrun our limit and I have to move on. Thank you. Thank you, Captain Porter.
Not a problem. Y'all be safe.
You too.
Yeah.
All right, next on the agenda, I believe, would be Housing Justice Committee update.
Yes, thank you. Just 1 second. I have a little child here. Just give me 1 second, sweetie. We had our last meeting on the first Wednesday of the month, which was March 2nd, where we had a very preliminary presentation from EYA about the Tacoma Metro development, which will be the subject of an upcoming meeting on April 8th. And we also had a presentation from about housing budget related issues. And we will be meeting again the first Wednesday of April, which I believe is April 6th. Thank you.
Okay, next would be Vision Zero. Commissioner Yates, would you like to provide the update?
I would love it if you wanted to, but I could do it. Go ahead.
We met on the third Wednesday of the month. I don't have that date in front of me. It was an open meeting to sort of discuss the direction in which we wanted to take the organization. So more of the group. It was more of a planning session where we came up with some ideas on future speakers, and we will host our next meeting on the third Wednesday in April, which happens to be what date? Let me see. The 20th. The meeting will be virtual and begins at 5:30 p.m. Thank you. So next on our list is a presentation from the Director of the Department of Public Works, and that is Director Michael Carter. Director Carter, the floor is yours. You're muted, sir. There you go. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I'm Mike Carter. I'm the interim Public Works Director. I'm pleased to speak with you today on behalf of Muriel Bowser on her fiscal year 2023 Fair Shop budget. Also joining me is Ms. Celeste Duffy, who is in the Director's Office of Communications, and Reggie May, our Solid Waste Education and Sanitation Director, who will take any questions that you may have about DPW issues after the brief budget presentation.
Thank you.
This budget is one that reflects what we are hearing from DC residents. Their concerns about public safety and affordability, about how we can better ensure all residents have access to safe and dignified housing, about how we can make our roads safer and continue to rethink how we use public space and commercial buildings. The mayor's budget makes big investments in our young people through our schools and facilities, but also through significant investments in early learning and out of school time activities. Mayor Bowser's $19.5 million budget is the most equitable budget in the history of the Department in the District of Columbia. And it has a lot to be proud of when it comes to our work around giving more DC residents a fair share. In just the past several months, thanks to Muriel Bowser's leadership, we have broken ground on a new hospital on the St. Elizabeth campus in Ward 8 to address health inequities, and open at the same campus a men's shelter to better support men's experiencing homelessness. The mayor launched a pilot to give new and expectant mothers in wards 5, 7, and 8 direct cash assistance of $900 a month. We celebrated the groundbreaking of a new grocery store at Scallon in Ward 7. And we cut the ribbon on the new Good Foods Market in Ward 8 and celebrated new tech jobs at the intersection of Martin Luther King Avenue and Good Hope Road. We also witnessed the progress of our DC Infrastructure Academy, which Mary Bowser created to make sure DC residents had a fair shot at good paying jobs and infrastructure. And since the Infrastructure Academy opened in 2018, more than 1,900 DC residents have been trained for careers in high demand infrastructure industries. There's so much to talk about in this budget, but I really want to go to budget highlights for proposed capital improvements in Ward 4. Director Lott was on the agenda, but I'm representing him. If you have any accolades to give Director Lott, I would take those as well as any shortcomings, but I'm very glad to be here to present this budget. Investments in housing and economic development, $10 million to finalize development at Children's National Hospital. Education and communities, $79 million for the renovation at Raymond Elementary School, $58 million for the renovation of Dorothy Heights Elementary School, $23 million for the renovation of Bernard Elementary School, $36 million for the renovation of LaSalle Bacchus Elementary School, $9.6 million to add a dedicated cafeteria at Coolidge High School, $73 million for the renovation of Whittier Education Campus, $15 million for the renovation of Upshur Recreation Center, $13 million for the renovation of Emory Heights Recreation Center, $25 million for a new 4A library, and $1 million for minor renovations at Petworth Library. Lastly, investments in transportation and environment, $23.5 million to continue historic investment in bringing Ward 4 streets into a state of good repair, $114 million to rehabilitate, reconstruct, and maintain sidewalks citywide, $102 million to bring alleys into a state of good repair through maintenance and reconstruction, $7.9 million to complete the Metropolitan Branch Trail from Blair Road to Piney Branch Road, and $14.5 million to complete the Metropolitan Branch Trail from First Place to Oglethorpe Street. In addition, the mayor has provided money to DPW to clean bike lanes. In addition, the mayor has also provided money to help us remove graffiti from bridges, to assist DDOT in structures over 2 stories. In addition, she has provided 110 FTEs so that our leaf season personnel are here all year round. Last year, the personnel came in October. Now they'll be there to go through education training as well as practice runs in several wards prior to the start of leaf season, so we can be ahead or on schedule as opposed to behind schedule. We're very pleased with what the Mayor Bowser has given DPW and DDOT and other agencies. And at this time, I'll take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll start with commissioners. Are there any questions? Let's just go Let's see, I don't see any hands raised from commissioners. My screen is difficult. Are there any residents with questions? I don't see any hands raised. Okay, I do have a couple of questions. So while I'm waiting for residents to formulate theirs, I'll start with, well, Commissioner Yates, why don't you go first?
And I saw Commissioner Palmer as well. I wanted to ask, we've had difficulties with parking enforcement for oversized trucks, particularly on the 6500 block of Piney Branch Road Northwest.
Right.
But I've also heard complaints from fellow commissioners along Oklahoma Avenue Northeast, Malcolm X Road Southeast, across the city. Like, what is DPW doing to ensure that you have the proper equipment and you have enforcement in place to keep large semi trucks from parking on neighborhood residential streets?
Okay, we have the equipment to remove those vehicles. At that time, our parking enforcement administrator, Johnny Gaither, who's not on this call, but we'll give you a written response. We have asked DDOT to change the regulations so that we can remove those vehicles, to change the signage as well as the regulation that will allow us to tow those vehicles for parking on Piney Branch Road. I'm asking Celeste Duffy, who should be on the call, what our experience has been with that enforcement. But every time we do get a complaint about Piney Branch Road, we do go there, and also we do have parking officers that check regularly in that area, and I drive by as well with the parking administrator.
I'm on the call.
Okay. Celeste, do you have knowledge about the parking regulations that we have been working with DDOT to change so that we can effectively tow a vehicle that's not in compliance with the regulations?
Yes, I do know that the Piney Branch Road issue has been, for semi trucks, has been an issue for, at least to my recollection, about 5 years. It certainly is not new. And oftentimes what tends to happen is, I believe some of these semis park overnight. And so we get the service request oftentimes during the day. And then by the time we are inspecting, sometimes the vehicle is there and sometimes it isn't. And as you know, there are several requirements, foot and length and height requirements in terms of what is legally allowed to be parked, you know, on Piney Branch or on streets such as that. So I do know that Mr. Gaither is trying to work with DDOT. Now, the specifics of the negotiations, I don't know, but Commissioner Yates, I certainly can get back to you on the status of where they are. But it is true that this is not a new issue, at least as far as my awareness, is certainly more than 5 years old. It is a haven and an attractive spot for vehicles, semis that want to park overnight, possibly leave and go somewhere to sleep, come back in the morning, move the truck. And then also for those that want to spend some days on Piney Branch. So we are very aware of this.
Being aware and affecting change are two different things. And so I think my question then to follow up is, what are you doing to affect change? Because having been a commissioner for 4 years, my residents don't want to know that it's been a 5-year problem. They want to know how it's going to be changed. I have one resident on the call right now who has semis that come off of 495 and park next to his home whenever they're, you know, needing a nap. It's not a quality of life that anyone wants for their neighborhood and their home.
No, and I certainly understand that, and you're right. You're absolutely right to feel that way. DPW is only allowed to execute what the law says are the parameters. And DPW unfortunately does not create that law. DDOT does.
So you're saying it's a legislation issue then that we need to address with the council member's office?
It's a legislation issue and it's a regulatory issue in terms of the agency. So what we can do is we can go back to both DDOT and to the council member's office and say, hey, look, we're having this issue and these are the problems we see. We cannot create the fix. They have to create the fix and then we have to do the enforcement.
So
Commissioner
I would
Yates?
just like to follow up on that this commission worked with Councilmember Mary Chay's office to create that fix, right? In the Vision Zero Omnibus Act, semis are no longer allowed to park alongside unprotected bike lanes. The law was changed, and that includes Piney Branch Road. So I
There
encourage
are bike lanes on Piney Branch Road now.
Yeah. What?
There are bike lanes now on Piney Branch Road?
Yes, there have been for several years.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I would just encourage DPW to enforce the law that this commission weighed in support of and worked with the council member and the Committee on Transportation to get passed.
We'll work with our park administrator and also a corporate counsel, because I know I go up to that area quite a bit. And also we have significant illegal dumping at the litter cans outside Safeway. So I'm up there 2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah, I think it's linked. They're definitely linked. As someone who's done, Commissioner Palmer can probably attest, and some others on this call who helped do cleanings in that area, it appears that a lot of the dumping and trash is linked to the commercial vehicles.
Right. We have, do we have Reggie May, the sweep manager, on the call? I know he had a tough time signing in.
Yes, Director Carter, I'm here.
Could you comment about what sweep has done about the illegal dumping in that area, as well as assisting parking enforcement?
Absolutely. Our inspectors are there on a regular basis. Whenever we find illegal dumping and we can find identification material to trace back to a vehicle, if the vehicle's there, we issue citations. With regards to getting the illegal dumping cleaned up, we work with our street and alley cleaning division. Where we find those semis and oversized vehicles, we also notify the director of parking enforcement of PEMA to have a team come out and ticket them.
Okay.
We're regularly in the area there. We know that that's a hot spot.
All right. Thank you. We have dedicated personnel now for bike lanes. Now that we're back basically out of the pandemic, we will provide a focus on the bike lanes as well. And I think that we may have to shift to early morning or late night enforcement. I know we have Rosa out doing enforcement at night, but they don't really focus on bike lanes and illegal parking per se, but we'll take a look at that and get back to you.
So Rosa does actually ticket for what they can ticket for, right? Not
Right.
always necessarily what's under their charge.
Right.
Because we've had residents get tickets for being parked in front of their own house for no
Mhm.
reason. The tickets ended up getting reversed. But I
Mhm.
felt like Rosa had a quota they had to meet that night or something.
No, they have performance targets, but they don't have quotas.
Okay.
And the performance targets depends upon the size of the enforcement, the time of day, even the day. So we're having a beat study done. We haven't had a beat study done in 25 years. So we're having a beat study to better tell us how to reallocate our resource so we're more impactful. In addition, we are hiring 13 additional motor vehicle operators to help with rush hour enforcement and bus lane enforcement. And if you know anyone that has a CDL or has worked in the private sector in towing, we will be more than happy to provide them the information, because we are short with tow crane operators who also can write tickets and tow at the same time. You don't need a parking officer. They'll come there, write the ticket and tow at the same time.
All right.
And we need to get
Commissioner-
more of those at night, in the evening.
Thank you. Commissioner Parks, did you have a question? Did I see your hand?
I got one.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. My question, I have 2 questions. Right here at 9th and Quakenboss, there's a boat that's been parked there for like 2 years, and they do use the boat, but is it legal for the boat to be parked on the street?
Well, if the boat is under a certain size and they have it tagged and permitted, I think it's under 22 feet. If you give me the address, Celeste and I can send.
Well, I don't quite know the address, but if you come to 9th and Quackenboss, it's sitting right
Okay.
there on the corner. It's about a 30-foot boat.
Okay. Thank you, Celeste, and I will get that over to Park and Enforcement.
Okay, and then my next question, just one more question. Over here on between 8th and 9th and Peabody is a garden. And cars, most of the time, trucks come by and throw their trash over. And I made a call last week about, because someone from the district, because the street is, the sidewalk is district and the garden is federal. So I made a call because someone come and clean up all that paper and all of those bags. They just dump bags at the tree. Can someone please come and clean that up?
What would help? Yes, ma'am. If you could send us a photo, and Mr. May and I will send out an inspector, and then we will have one of our street and alley crews come out and clean that up.
Okay, even though I already have a call in.
What has happened since we've been in winter, leaf and snow? Those folks that do leaf and snow do alley cleaning and public space cleaning. So we are expecting to do a high impact visibility enforcement, but you give me the address, Mr. Mayor, and I think we received that, so we will just expedite it. But that's at 8th and 9th and Peabody Northwest, correct?
Yes, right behind the
Okay.
4th D.
We'll
Mr.
make
May know
certain
where
that
it's at.
when we
Yes,
are
I
up
do know
in
where it is.
that area, Ward 4, we'll do that complaint as well.
All right, thank you.
May I
All
ask
right,
ma'am?
thank you. I understand that all commissioners pretty much have questions, and I'm going to get to each of you. Director Carter ended his presentation a few minutes early, so we are now entering our 10-minute question period, so don't feel like we won't have an opportunity to address every question.
Okay.
Commissioner Huff, and then Commissioner Palmer.
All right, thank you so much. I want to first thank you guys for your continued partnership. And I know you mentioned some things that didn't have to do with DPW, so I'll do DPW first. So the materials that are used in these cans, our rats continue to eat through them. Back in the day, we used to have metal cans, and I know it's probably very expensive to have metal at the bottom so the rats can't eat through it. Has that ever been considered? That's one. So I'll let you answer that.
I do know that the cans that we have now, the reinforced plastic, they have a lifespan of 10 to 15 years, and a lot of them are expiring their useful life. So after wear and tear and just regular use, they do wear down, they do get thin. So even with the metal cans, the rats somehow still find a way to eat through them. Mr. May has the most experience, and he could tell you that if it's rat tested or they have damaged the can, the mayor does have a plug where we can replace those, but metal cans, there's not very many companies out there that's going to make a 96-gallon metal can and with a self-closing top. But I'll let Mr. May address that further.
That is correct, that the mayor has in place, and Director Carter makes sure that we enforce it. Containers that are chewed by rats are replaced. And what happens is our inspectors will come out, look at the container to make sure that the can has been chewed by rats, and then we'll ask that it be replaced. We've also found on a regular basis that when you, after the trash has been collected, if you clean your container out on a regular basis and use a little bleach in it, the rats will stay away from it. They'll last a little bit longer. It's those containers that aren't well maintained that usually wound up being eaten on a regular basis by rats. Ms. Huff, you and I can talk about this more if you like, offline. Okay. All right, happy to do that.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
And again, I do appreciate it because you guys did come in November 2020, Cheryl Satchel, when she was on board, we did an extensive walkthrough. We gathered a whole extensive list. Some of those are still dated, so I will talk to you about that. Lawrence Dance did come out to the community and agreed to do it. Also wanted to know when is the award for graffiti abatement. And I know that Mr. Carter, you talked about the budgets for rec centers, and I know that you gave it from the budget side. But Riggs LaSalle is one that deserves to be included. And I guess I'll take that up at another time as well. It hasn't had a major renovation since it was built. And the Paloozas seem to change, and I know that's DDOT. So it used to be
Well,
8 alleys would be done.
I
And
will
now
send that up to the deputy mayor of Denver. The mayor did mention last Wednesday at her budget briefing at the library that there will be some enhancements this year. I don't know exactly what those enhancements are going to be in this year's budget. It depends upon the revenue, because revenue is starting to creep upwards. So I'm sure Mr. Mitchell will make a note of it, but I'm hopeful that that would happen with an enhancement sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. And then I'll talk to Anthony Mitchell and the group about what the alley paloozas look like. It used to be 8 alleys a year. I think I heard from Councilmember George that that number lowered. So what does that look like with as many alleys as we have that need to be done? Thank
Talking
you.
about alleys to be repaved.
Yeah.
I'll give that to Director Lott. I do know they have a significant amount of money. The reason why I know is that they have asked, that you typically ask for 2 tow cranes to assist with DPW relocating cars when they pave, and they've asked for 4. So they have a significant amount of dollars. And they tried to have us towed during a snowstorm. I said, look, y'all got to plow just like we do. And, but DDOT has been geared up to go. And we have tow cranes that we fully dedicate to them after we do AM rush hour. But we'll pass it on to Director Lott. But they do have a significant amount of dollars to spend this year, like they did last year.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Palmer.
Thank you so much. I have 2 questions. I wanted to ask about resources for booting and towing cars and whether there's increased funding for that in this year's budget. We've heard that the impound lot is repeatedly full and that there's not enough staff for booting and towing cars. And that's a problem we see on our end, partly with abandoned cars, which sit around without response or action for an extended period of time. And I also wanted to ask about staffing levels in terms of collection of trash from public litter cans, which is an issue we've raised repeatedly. We submitted a letter about a year ago, noting that we had heard that there had been a DPW study on the use of public trash cans and what was going on in terms of the need for trash collection. And we asked for a copy of that and did not receive it. So I'm wondering if there's additional information there. Thank you.
Okay. I have Celeste follow. I don't know if there was a study we did, sort of internal assessment. Let me discuss booting. When I was here before in DPW, we had 7 to 8 booting crews. And in 2008, when we had the financial crisis, the downturn, I think about 6 of those crews got cut and they never got replaced. So in this year's budget, about 3 weeks ago, we hired 5 more FTEs we're going to add this year to the booting crews, as well as there's another 9 coming next year, which will assist greatly. And also we are ordering additional boots to boot vehicles. And also we're going to have a self-release boot. So if somebody is booted, we do not have a booting crew to have to come out and take the boot off. You take your credit card, you pay online or via telephone. They give you a code, like I get one with Yahoo, you punch it in and you can take that boot and bring it back to us. In next year's budget, there will be more booting. Then this year, we have been working with DGS like we have over the past 2 years to get an additional impoundment lot. And we should have that impoundment lot in early summer. so we can tow these additional booted vehicles to that area. We do have staff at Blue Plains that can handle abandoned vehicles, but if we move most of the parking resources to this new location, we'll have staff there ready to impound those vehicles. It's a matter of us having the land to do it. I know about 2 years ago, we had some DGS property that was to be utilized by school. We used it for about 3 months and it was very helpful in taking vehicles out of wards 3, 4, and 5. But we lost that due to the fact that DCPS is taking that property back. But we will have additional booting crews this year at altered schedules and days. And we're doing several, I guess, boot paloozas on April the 9th and 16th. On the study, I'll check with Celeste to see if there was an official study done by an outside consultant. But I also asked Reggie May to comment because he and I have been looking at litter cans for well over 10 years and involved with improvements. We do have our new street and alley deputy administrator meets weekly with DGS and Parks and Rec to work on more timely collection of recycling in the parks, which picked up by a DGS contractor, and litter cans by DPW. Now that we're out of leaf and snow, our resources have now gone back to the rightful places so that we can have a more effective schedule.
Director Carter, can I address the study?
Go ahead.
Commissioner Palmer, I believe that the commission did send a resolution regarding the litter can pilots, and we did respond. I will check tomorrow and send the response because I'm pretty sure we did send the response. At that time, and this was probably about 4 years ago, we did 2 pilots for litter cans. We did an efficacy and then cost benefit analysis on proposed or possible new litter cans. I can do some additional work and get you some more detailed information, but just generally, both of the pilots, we had one that was a compactor that would actually compress the litter in the cans. And then we had another one that had a sensor that would say when litter cans were full and see if that we could more efficiently collect because we would know when the cans were full. In terms of the efficacy that we could actually operate better at either the same or lower or slightly higher cost, neither pilot was able to produce that. But I didn't conduct the study, and I can try and locate for you the general findings of why that was the case for each of those pilots.
Thanks, Celeste. But also I want to be clear that over the past 35 days, DPW has supported MPD on this trucker convoy, and 60 of those personnel, in addition to equipment, has been devoted to 2 12-hour shifts for the past 35 days. The trucker convoy detail ends this Thursday. I am so glad. So now we can get back in the business of staying on schedule and staffing our particular areas in street and alley so that we could keep up with the SLAs and respond to complaints. But it's been a challenge coming out of leaf and snow and the truckers convoy.
And Director Carter,
go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr. May.
I'll address the litter containers overflowing. We have our inspectors are out on a regular basis monitoring those containers, and where we find that they're overflowing, the first thing that we do is go through them to see if we can find information about who may be illegally dumping in them. Again, if we are able to trace that information back to the litterer, we issue a citation. Once we're able to do that, then we notify our street and alley cleaning team to come and empty the containers. We have our staff out on a daily basis doing it and a couple of nights a week. And what we find is that there are lots of businesses who use our containers to get rid of their trash rather than use private trash haulers as a means of saving money. And so we are aware of this, we're working to correct it, and we will continue to work in that vein.
Thank you. I think I've heard from almost every commissioner at this point. I saved myself for last, so everyone got the opportunity to speak. So I'm going to ask my questions, and then Commissioner Yates, if you could be prepared to check the chat for me, I would appreciate it. So there are multiple cars in my SMD specifically, that use car covers as a loophole so that they no longer have to register their vehicles. They don't have, current tags or registration, but no one does anything about them because you're not looking under the tarp. So the cars aren't getting ticketed, they're not getting towed, and they also don't meet the requirement to be considered abandoned because we can never clear a threshold for 2 issues. For example, you have to have 2 conditions in order to have a vehicle towed currently. Right now, we have a car on our block that has no windows, no window, no tags at all on the car, but the registration's current, so you won't tow it. It clearly doesn't belong to any residents on the block, and it just sits here. It's a trap car, which is what I was making reference to earlier. We had cars where we could see children coming up to the car, dropping the drugs in the car. And we could see the purchaser come later and pick up the drugs, but no one would tow the car. That went on for 2 years in this community, which increased crime in this neighborhood as well. And I think my residents are tired of that. And so I'd like to know what can be done to get rid of cars that very clearly aren't even drivable on the streets of the District of Columbia. If you don't have a tag, you can't drive. If you don't have a current tag, you're not supposed to be driving. And so there shouldn't be the ability to continue to park it on the street.
Okay.
That's one issue that I have. The next issue is a couple of blocks in my SMD are turning into RV camps because we have RVs that park on this street and people don't move them. One of them has Virginia tags. So they don't live here. And if they do, they should go get a permit or proper tags for that community. But I can't get it towed because it's not illegally parked. There's nothing that I can do about it. And I don't think that that's the intention of the rule. So I would like to have that addressed. And with regard to the cars with the tarps, they're on Kennedy Street Northeast, they're on Quintana Place Northeast, they're on Longfellow Street Northwest, they're throughout this community. And so it's become very clear that that it's very purposeful that they're trying to avoid either tagging the car or they can't register it, but they're not doing anything about it. And then lastly, I've made requests to have litter cans along Riggs Road, Missouri Avenue near the Fort Totten Metro. As kids commute to school, they have nowhere to drop their trash other than our yards as they walk to the Metro. And it would be helpful if there were at least some litter cans along that strip. We've been told that you don't put litter cans in residential neighborhoods, but while there is one house on Riggs Road right there, that is primarily not a residential area. And there's a school across the street, which also contributes to the trash that we find on the street there. So I would appreciate if you could possibly consider adding litter cans to Riggs Road or / Missouri Avenue near the Fort Totten Metro, and on Eastern Avenue near Rittenhouse Street Northeast, there is a McDonald's across the street and a liquor store, and no litter cans as people walk away from that corner. So as you're walking down Eastern Avenue again, there's no place for the people to drop the garbage that they purchased at these locations.
Well, give us a location on the litter cans. We are out looking at areas to install.
So for the litter can, we would like a litter can along the 100 block of Riggs Road Northeast. And for Eastern Avenue, we would like it at the intersection of Eastern Avenue and Quintana Place.
And the abandoned vehicles, send those to me. We have went out to those covered cars. In some instances, we've had to call MPD for assistance because I've been out with Rose at night and we went to write tickets and the folks on the corner would pull back their jackets and let us know they were armed. So we don't want to put our parking officers and abandoned vehicle tow crane operators in danger, but for those locations, we would have to coordinate with MPD.
Understood. Commissioner Johnson and then Commissioner Yates.
Is that Tiffany Johnson or?
Yep, you're the only Commissioner Johnson on the call tonight.
Oh, okay, perfect. So a couple of things. First, starting off with the trash cans. We need to do something better than just putting a little stamp on the public trash cans, because everybody in my SMD uses their trash cans for all of their personal use. And it's drawing a lot of animals to that trash can. Secondly, I have open, excuse me, 311 requests that have gone, I don't know, into the internet universe that have not been resolved. Specifically, one trash can at 3rd and Oglethorpe that I've even had Department of Health come out and say it needs to be replaced. We're a year and a half into that walkthrough and it has not been replaced. So that's a big problem. Also, sorry, I'm battling a cold right now. We also have issues with individuals just dumping trash everywhere, like literally everywhere. And it takes 2 to 3 weeks before I can get someone to come out to clean it up. So is there something that I'm missing? Is there something else that needs to be done?
There's nothing you're missing. We sometimes do not get the 311 requests from OUC, but if you give those locations to Celeste and Regina, illegal dumping is a 2-step process: 4 days to investigate and 9 days to mitigate the problem. But we will, Celeste will take that information from you, and we will definitely expedite those requests.
I mean, I'm putting in 311 requests and I'm getting the acknowledgement that it's been accepted.
Yeah, but I don't want to talk about the system, but sometimes we don't get those timely. And, computers do great things, but sometimes they don't always.
Okay, so the lag time isn't with internal, it's external.
Well, it could be internal, external. If you give us a complaint number, we will look, because sometimes it might have went to DCRA, they closed it and didn't refer it to us. I've seen strange things happen, and Mr. May can attest to that. But we want to not spread blame, but we want to take responsibility and get this expedited as quickly as possible.
Okay, so when a constituent reaches out to me, what should I tell them to do?
Celeste, you want to comment first, and then I can comment after that?
Yes, thank you, Director. When a constituent has an issue, the first thing is always to have a 311 request. That's kind of the baseline, because from there we can track, and we can track our progress, and you can track our progress, so that if we are not meeting our SLA, which is the service level agreement, which is the commitment that the district gives you in times for when and how quickly the government should function to mitigate the request, it will always go up against the 311. If you have pictures or any other supplemental information, that helps us be able to mitigate the issue as quickly as possible, because if we can look at it, we can determine exactly the number of people and equipment we need. So it saves a step. Instead of going out to investigate and then have someone report back and say, hey, this is what this issue is going to need. It's going to need 3 people and this type of equipment. If we can see it on a photo, we can generally do that initially, and that makes the process much quicker.
So what do I do with 311 requests that are over a year old?
Please send that to me. I know I've spoken and corresponded with you before, but for anyone on the chat, my email is Celeste, CELESTE .Duffy, DUFFIE @dc.gov. But anything a year older, I mean, send that to me tomorrow morning.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Yates, is there anything in the chat that we need to address before we let DPW go?
I'll just summarize briefly, and I hope that there folks are taking notes in the chat. There are concerns about illegal parking on Van Buren between 4th Street and North Capitol, the 6600 block of Piney Branch Road Northwest, request for additional litter cleans at 7th and Dahlia Northwest and 4th and Butternut Northwest. So those are the quick summary, but it's all in the chat. So whoever is working tonight can probably copy and paste it out quicker than I can read it aloud.
All right, thank you so much. Director Carter, again, we appreciate your coming and your staff's willingness to support our efforts in assisting our residents. Thank you very much for coming and look forward to
Thank
hearing from
you
you
for
on
the
these issues.
opportunity. And while I'm the interim director, I'd just like to let you know, I don't know how long I'll be in this position, but I like that Celeste Duffy has my proxy. And she calls me into the office to let me know what's not getting done. So please utilize her as a resource. And she works closely with Reggie, May, and myself. And we look forward to working with you going forward.
Thank you very much. Okay, get back to our agenda. I believe we're almost there. The next items on our agenda are consent calendar resolutions. All resolutions have been posted to our website. The first is Resolution 4B 220301, calling on National Park Service and District Department of Transportation to make usable paper alleys behind the 5400 block of First Street Northeast. And that's Commissioner Brooks and Commissioner Palmer. Resolution 4B 220302, resolution in opposition of confirmation of Karima Holmes as Director of the District Office of Unified Communications, Commissioner Yates. And Resolution 4B 220303, providing feedback on the construction of the Metro Branch Trail from Blair Road to Piney Branch Road, Commissioner Yates and Commissioner Palmer. For those that are not aware, consent calendar items are posted in advance of the meeting for residential review and are voted on without discussion. So is there a motion to move the consent calendar forward?
Make a motion to approve.
And is there a second? To approve or to move forward for a
I'm
vote?
sorry, to move forward.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
I'm not sure what I heard, but I'll second if no one else does. Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. I think that's everyone, Commissioner Palmer. Thank you.
This is Tiffany. I.
Got you. Thank you very much. All right, so that was the last item on the agenda. And so we are going to adjourn at 8:44 p.m. We thank everyone for their participation and look forward to seeing you all next month. Good
Bye,
night.
everyone. Be safe. Stay healthy.